Most of us have experienced the strange and inexplicable. That one moment when you feel a cold breeze on a hot summer day or hear your name whispered in an empty room. But one thing we've always wondered is whether there are others out there who have experienced things just as eerie and unsettling as these. Well, it turns out that there are many people who have had their share of paranormal experiences. And some of them are so realistic and terrifying that they'll leave you questioning the very nature of our existence. Welcome back, everyone, to our channel. Here we bring you the most exciting and terrifying paranormal stories from around the world. So, if you love all things creepy and mysterious, then be sure to subscribe for more updates. In today's video, we're going to tell you the story of a man who found his dead wife in their bed. The details are so disturbing that you won't be able to stop thinking about this case even after the video ends. So let's get started. It was a cold winter night and the wind was howling outside. John sat up in bed next to his wife, staring at the peeling paint on the ceiling. His wife, Mary, was a light sleeper, and the sound of the wind made her toss and turn restlessly. Suddenly, she stopped moving. John turned to her and noticed that she was fast asleep. He reached out to stroke her hair, but her body felt unnaturally cold. Startled, he shook her shoulder, but she didn't respond. In a panic, he called her name, but there was no reply. Her eyes remained closed and her breathing was shallow and slow. As minutes turned into hours, John's fear turned to despair. He knew something was wrong, but he couldn't understand what had happened to her. Then, as if in a dream, he remembered the doctor's warning that Mary's heart condition was deteriorating and that she might not survive the winter. Could this be it? Had Mary's time come? Just then, Mary opened her eyes and looked at John with a strange, distant look. She sat up in bed and slowly began to speak. Her voice was weak and raspy, and she seemed to be in a trance. "John," she said, "I haven't long to live." John was shocked by what he heard. Why did the doctor not tell us this? He thought. He rushed to Mary's side and held her hand, trying to convey his love and support. But Mary's gaze was fixed on something behind him, and her expression was filled with terror. "John," she whispered again, "turn round and look." John hesitated for a moment, torn between his love for Mary and his fear of whatever she might be seeing. But eventually, he turned round. What he saw behind him was so unexpected that it left him speechless. There, standing in the corner of the room, was a tall, dark figure that seemed to be made of shadows. It was tall and thin, with long, sharp teeth and glowing red eyes. As the figure stepped forward, John could feel the temperature in the room drop. He could feel Mary's grip on his hand tightening, and he could hear her breathing become shallow and rapid. Then, with a final burst of strength, Mary pushed him away from her and stood up. She walked towards the figure, her eyes never leaving its face. As she reached out to touch it, the figure suddenly vanished, and with a final scream, Mary collapsed to the floor. John rushed to her side, but it was too late. Mary had passed away, stricken with grief and confusion. John called the emergency services. When the paramedics arrived, they were unable to revive Mary, and when the police arrived, they were unable to explain what had happened. In the days that followed, John was haunted by the memory of the tall, dark figure. He couldn't shake the feeling that it had been the cause of Mary's death, but he had no proof and no one believed him. He felt isolated and alone, struggling to cope with the loss of his wife and the mystery of her death. Then one day, while going through Mary's belongings, he found a diary. As he began to read her entries, he realized that she had been seeing the same tall, dark figure for weeks. She had described it to John, but he had dismissed it as a figment of her imagination. Now, reading her words, he understood that what Mary had seen was all too real. Determined to uncover the truth, John began to research the history of his house. He discovered that the house had once belonged to a family who had died under mysterious circumstances. And when he delved deeper, he uncovered a dark secret that had been hidden for years. The tall, dark figure that Mary had seen was the spirit of one of the family members who had died in the house, and he was responsible for the death of anyone who dared to live there. This is one of the scariest paranormal stories we've ever heard, and it's a chilling reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more creepy and mysterious content. Thanks for watching.
Camping discovery was caught on camera.
It all started when a guy called Harry Street accidentally discovered a creepy clown doll while camping with his friends in the woods.
The doll's name is Odd the Clown, and it belonged to a friend of his who had passed away recently.
Harry decided to take the doll with him on his camping trip as a way to honor his friend, but he soon realized that this was probably a bad idea. As soon as he arrived at the campsite and set up the tent, he started hearing strange noises. At first, he thought it was just the wind or maybe some animals.
But then the noises started to get louder and more aggressive, like someone was trying to break into the tent. Harry started to feel really scared, and he and his friends started yelling and making tons of noise to scare whatever was out there.
Eventually, the commotion outside the tent slowly came to a halt.
In the morning after, of course, not sleeping at all, Harry unzipped the tent to the creepiest scene. All around the tent were thousands of little pebbles that were not there the evening before, and surrounding the tent in a near-perfect circle were also 20 or so larger stones.
Someone or something had spent the night rearranging the stones in a creepy pattern.
While Harry was still in the tent, he started to feel something crawling on his arm.
He looked down and saw a large spider that had somehow crawled in through the mesh of the tent.
It was a very hairy and very large tarantula.
Harry, being the brave soul that he is, picked the spider up and put it outside the tent.
As the day went on, things only got weirder.
Harry and his friends found more strange patterns of pebbles and leaves. And then they found this, a small wooden box with what appeared to be a pentagram carved into it.
There was also what looked like blood stains all over the box.
Curiosity got the better of them, and they decided to open it.
Inside was an even more creepy clown doll. This doll was clearly meant to be evil, like something straight out of the movie It. With the discovery of the second doll, they decided it was probably best to pack up and head home.
As they were taking down the tent, they noticed more strange markings and symbols on the ground.
They took a few pictures and then hurried to get out of there. In the car, they looked at the pictures they had taken.
And in one of the photos, you can clearly see the shadow of a very creepy, skeletal-looking hand.
Now, do you believe in ghosts?
Let me know your thoughts below.
Do you ever feel like you're being watched? Like there's a presence in the room with you, even though you're all alone? Well, one woman did, and she turned her camera on to find out who or what was there. But the truth is, she never should have done that.
Welcome back, everyone.
Here you're about to hear about the most terrifying ghost caught on camera. This comes from a Reddit user. I was home alone for the first time in a while. It's a 3-story house with a basement and an attic. The power was out on the top 2 floors, and I was just relaxing on my couch watching some videos on my phone. About an hour in, I started feeling like I was being watched.
I live alone, and I was certain that I had locked the front door.
My house has never been broken into, and I live in a very nice neighborhood. So I just kind of shrugged it off and went back to watching videos on my phone. A few minutes later, I started hearing what I can only describe as footsteps above me on the 3rd floor. Now, this is where my bedroom is, and again, I was home alone. I thought maybe it was a branch from outside hitting the roof, but it didn't sound like that.
It sounded like footsteps.
I pulled my phone out and turned on the camera and started recording. I didn't want to investigate because I knew that if it was something dangerous, I would be in more danger by confronting it than running away. So I just started recording the screen. On the left is the front door and the screen on the right is my bedroom door. Both doors were closed.
No one was home. Then all of a sudden, the lights turned on upstairs. I instantly got very scared and I threw my phone on the couch and turned off the camera.
I didn't want to see what was going on. I was frozen in fear for a solid 5 minutes.
I couldn't move or make a sound. Then I started to calm down a bit, and I decided to go upstairs to check it out. As I approached my bedroom, I started to hear footsteps again.
I opened the door and everything was normal.
There was no signs of forced entry and nothing was out of place.
I was relieved, but I was still shaken up by what had happened.
So I went downstairs to watch the video that I recorded, and this is what I saw.
In the video, you can see that the door to my bedroom is slightly open.
And at first, I thought that maybe I had left it open, and that's why the lights turned on. But then I remembered that I definitely closed the door, because I was sitting on the couch facing the other way when I started recording. But that wasn't the scariest part.
The most terrifying thing was that when I played back the video, I could have sworn that I saw a figure standing in the doorway.
It looked like an emaciated old man. I couldn't see his face because it was too dark, but I could see his body. He was wearing what looked like an old-fashioned nightshirt. And then just as suddenly as he appeared, he vanished. I don't know what that was, but it definitely wasn't me.
I never should have turned that camera on. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe and share with your friends. And if you want to hear more terrifying stories, stay tuned for more content. See you next time.